This is Ross Feingold on the Taiwan Hashtag program, hosted by Store Media, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. The big news from Germany that impacts Taiwan was the result of a petition. Yes, public petitions. Europe is very good about that kind of thing. Much better history than the United States or even here in Taiwan. Europe, people, the members of the public, the citizens, can sign their name to a petition and get a hearing. You can get the legislature, the parliament, central federal government officials to hear what you have to say and respond to you. So there was a petition in Germany calling on the German government to establish diplomatic relations with the Republic of China on Taiwan. It reached enough signatures to get an official response from the German federal government. I believe the number was 50,000. They breached the 50,000, and that required a hearing and a response from the German federal government, which occurred earlier this week. German-Taiwan relations, like a lot of countries that don't have diplomatic relations with the Republic of China, very strong on trade, a lot of trade between the two sides, strong on cultural interaction, education exchange. A lot of Taiwan students go to study in Germany. Taiwan's current representative in Germany, Xie Zhiwei, he had the job before under Chen Shui-bian, the previous Democratic Progressive Party president. So this is a scholar of Germany, a lot of friends in the German political sphere, in industry, in arts. So for a country the size of Taiwan, is a relatively high profile as a de facto, not an actual ambassador in Berlin. And of course, he speaks German very well, and he's a prolific user of Facebook. So he knows how to get Taiwan's message out in Germany, a very strong advocate for Taiwan in Germany. So what happened at the hearing? Well, the German federal government basically said, Nein. They said, no, we are not going to recognize Taiwan, the Republic of China, Taiwan. Germany is not going to establish diplomatic relations with the Republic of China on Taiwan. Well, the reasons are obvious, of course, one China. We'll get to that, but let's take a step back and say or ask the people who brought the petition, what were you thinking? Why now? First of all, Taiwan's having an election in January. Maybe Germany doesn't want to get too involved in Taiwan politics at this time. It would be a good model for other countries, whether China or the United States, to follow as well. Why would they come out and say, yeah, we're going to do that right before Taiwan's election? It would be taking sides in Taiwan's election. So maybe the timing of moving the proposal wasn't so good. A better timing might be after the election result, assuming the polls are correct and Tsai Ing-wen gets a very strong mandate for a second term. Wouldn't the timing be better to go to the German government then and say, our voters have endorsed Tsai Ing-wen to serve another 4 years, and as part of our democratic expression or through direct election of our president, here's something that Germany should now do to recognize the fact that Taiwan's a democracy. But doing it shortly before Taiwan's election, bad timing. How about some other timing issues? Have you heard of Brexit? It's always very peculiar when people in support of Taiwan, they ask people in Europe to do stuff for Taiwan at the current moment, such as sign free trade agreements. Delegations from Europe come to Taiwan. They meet with Taiwan government officials, including the president, and they say, we'd love to sign a free trade agreement with you. Well, the timing just isn't good. They're a little busy with Brexit. Taiwan might not be such a high priority for them, but because of the petition mechanism, they have to respond. They're probably thinking, this is taking up resources from our foreign ministry and other agencies in the German government when we're a little busy with Brexit. They're also a little busy with things like NATO. There was a big NATO summit in London last week. Chancellor Merkel was there. She met with Donald Trump. Frankly, the summit didn't go very well. There was some friction between the European and Canadian leaders and President Trump. So a little bit busy with the aftermath of NATO. How about the Ukraine-Russia summit that also occurred this week? Merkel was there. She went to Paris She co-hosted it with French President Macron, trying to bring peace between Ukraine and Russia. Again, she's not thinking about Taiwan, nor is her foreign ministry. Earlier this year, Germany signed a letter criticizing China's human rights practices, especially with regards to the Uyghur community in Xinjiang. Obviously, China was a little bit angry about that. In September, Germany's foreign minister met with Hong Kong protest leader Joshua Wong. Again, China was a little bit angry about that, to say the least. So, again, these are all timing issues. China and German relations are not in a strong period right now. Does Germany really have the appetite to take on Taiwan as another issue in the bilateral German-China agenda? Well, they sent a pretty strong signal with their response. They said, no, we're not going to recognize Taiwan. Maybe the advocates of this petition should be happy that the hearing was held and there was a response. It was public. It wasn't kind of hidden behind closed doors. But the answer was extraordinarily clear. Now, the more technical reason, of course, is Germany's one China policy. And every country kind of defines their one country policy a little differently. China really likes when countries say the one China policy, and they try to get countries to define that under terms or using wording that China wants, which is that Taiwan is a part of China, or even better from a Chinese perspective is when other countries say that Taiwan is a part of the People's Republic of China. The United States, when they're careful, government officials in the United States, they will say our one China policy as opposed to the one China policy. So U.S. is very careful about that, to say our one China policy, which is to recognize that China has a claim on Taiwan. But we don't, the United States doesn't say we recognize the legitimacy of the People's Republic of China's claim on Taiwan. So that's a distinction when they say our one China policy. But Germany say, we have a one China policy. We're not going to recognize the Republic of China or have two diplomatic relations, one with the People's Republic of China and one with the Republic of China on Taiwan. Obviously, PRC, Beijing, the Communist Party, they'll never agree to that anyway if Germany proposed that. So Germany, very clear, we're not changing our one China policy. And then they reminded the advocates for this petition that, our policy, Germany's policy, is pretty much the European Union policy. It's almost like a signal. If you ask other countries in Europe, you bring a petition, you try to get the same hearing and response from the national governments in other European Union countries, they're probably going to say the same thing. So it's kind of a discouraging response to the advocates saying, you know what, don't even try this. Germany, typically seen along with France as a leader in foreign policy making in the European Union, especially with the impending Brexit of the United Kingdom. So they're basically saying, like, don't even try this with other EU countries. Everyone else in the EU has got the same policy. Here's another reason why Germany isn't really eager to do this. Has to do with trade. Germany has a massive trade surplus with Taiwan. I checked the data right before we recorded the show. It's about $1.9 billion between January and September of 2019. So a very large trade surplus for Germany. What do they sell? Well, like they sell to everyone else. They're very good at selling automobiles and machinery and the things that Germany is well known for. So a strong goods surplus. They probably have a surplus in services as well, because there's far more Taiwan tourists and students going to Germany than German tourists or students coming to Taiwan. So Germany's thinking, oh, you guys are buying so much stuff from us. We don't really need something from you, so why would we take the risk of damaging our relationship with China when you're already buying so much stuff from us? So here's another word of advice to the advocates for this. If you really want to change German opinion, maybe buy less, maybe cause some German companies to feel some pain. Maybe there'll be more stronger advocates for Taiwan. It's probably unlikely, but if they're going to tell you we're not going to recognize your cause, we're not going to establish diplomatic relations with you, why you keep buying stuff from Germany? So maybe the people who advocated this petition should be saying, well, based on this response from the German government, why are we running such a large trade surplus with Germany? Something to think about for those advocates. Then a lot of people will compare the situation with East Germany and West Germany during the Cold War with China and Taiwan. Bad comparison. It's easy to make, but it's a bad comparison. Why is that? Well, it very simply comes down to the fact that the international community at the time, so after World War II, prior to German unification in 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell, the international community, whether behind the Iron Curtain, the Eastern Bloc countries, the Western countries, the democracies led by the United States and its NATO allies, they all recognized that there's one Germany. They also recognized that the two Germanys were separated, temporarily separated. Post-war, couldn't agree on unification. The Soviets were occupying the eastern part of the country following the end of the war. Germany's western part was occupied by the U.S., Britain, and France, and they couldn't come to an agreement to unify the two parts of Germany. It's kind of similar to the situation on the Korean Peninsula. But they didn't dispute that the two parts, the two constituent parts, were ultimately part of the same country. It was a temporary separation. That is not necessarily how they view Taiwan and China, and it's also not necessarily how people here in Taiwan should want the international community to view the situation. Typically, the people who are advocating for recognition of Taiwan, they don't support the recognition of the Republic of China. What they really want is for Taiwan to be Taiwan, not to be the Republic of China, but to be a new country with a new name, which would probably be the Republic of Taiwan, Taiwan Republic. Some people say, let's call it the Republic of Formosa, with a new constitution. So right now, we still have the constitution that was written in China when the national government, the Kuomintang, led government was still in China before they lost the civil war to the communists. So we're still operating under that constitution. So independence advocates, they want to get rid of the name, they want to get rid of the constitution. It's a very understandable position. So why would you make the argument that it's similar to East Germany and West Germany, which are part of the same country, temporarily separated, and with diplomatic recognition? I mean, that was the whole concept behind the rapprochement between West Germany and East Germany, known as Ostpolitics. When Germany and East Germany commenced a dialogue, that facilitated other countries to have diplomatic relations with East Germany, or Soviet bloc countries to have diplomatic relations with West Germany. But why would you advocate that for Taiwan? It's basically saying that your goal is long-term unification. If you really advocate for Taiwan's separation, you should not use East Germany and West Germany as a comparison. It is not a valid historical comparison if your ultimate goal is to have a separate Taiwan from China. So advocates for that cause, don't confuse the international community by putting Taiwan and China in the same situation as the two Germanys were during the Cold War. No surprise that Germany said Nein. Advocates for Taiwan independence, you're going to have to try another method to get support in the international community. I'm Ross Feingold, and you've been watching Taiwan Hashtag, hosted by Storm Media.